It's called to order at 10:34. We have a quorum. All 5 board members are here, and I just confirmed that the notice has been posted at the front door as well as around the mailboxes. At this time, I'm assigning John Clayman as the chairperson for this particular meeting. Do you accept?
Yes. All right. Next up is item 3 on the agenda. Before we get to item 3, we have a couple of owners here who cannot stay till the end, especially since the end is not known, and have requested the opportunity to speak first. Nobody has a problem with that. I think there are 2 that I'm aware of. If we're fine with that, we'll have those 2 people address the group now so that they can leave when they need it.
Sean, can I ask you something?
Sure.
According to this, only unit owners may attend. I would like to see hands of people who are not unit owners and have them excused, please.
Are there any non-unit owners? Attorney, who's allowed to be here?
And our policeman.
Right.
So we only have 1 non-unit owner?
Correct.
What about
Shelton's
Sheldon?
not an owner.
She's assistant to the board president.
It says only unit owners may attend.
No, officers and other
professional-
people. Yes, professional vendors.
Our managers.
Professional vendors? What are professional vendors?
Our attorney to be more specific. All right? We complied. Any problem with having the 2 people that want to speak first speak now?
Nope.
Okay. I think Dr. Israel wanted to speak.
I'd like to make a few comments, if I may.
Mike, could we wait? We told her we'd let her speak.
Thank you for the board to allow me to do this. I was very distressed this week when I received a note and some book bags from a resident who did not give their name, saying that they were tired of cleaning up after Destiny, and they were giving me these poop bags to do so. Of course, they had the wrong person, and I just wanted them to know if they are here that the poop bags have been left in the office for them to pick up, because I have no need for them. The second thing is I'm very concerned about the area going to the beach. Someone eventually will have an accident if we don't get that fixed. So I hope that that will be on the agenda to discuss this morning. Thank you.
Mike?
There are a few things I'd like to address. I've been a member of this homeowners association for 19 years. It'll be 20 in June. And I've never seen what's going on here right now. Animosity, hatred, disrespect for our president. It's intolerable to me, okay? Now, I would like to give you a little history. I was a member of this board for 15 years. I was president, I was an officer for several years. We had a lawsuit with the contractor back in the 90s. It lasted 5 years, and I was president when we settled that lawsuit. And we settled it for $350,000. With the condition, this money had to be placed in all the different reserve accounts for us to prevent us from paying taxes on the money. Now, for some reason, we have some board members who this $350,000 thinks, hey, this is great. We can spend for this, we can spend for that. And what happens? They tell you, hey, we're going to put a roof on, it's not going to cost you a dime. Or you will clean out your reserve account. Then you're going to have your tax liabilities, okay? Now, you people got to think about this. You clean out all the money. Any project you do here from then on will be special assessments. Now, at the annual meeting, I heard all the cheering when the budget was turned down. We're going to keep it at $400 a month, right? What happens 3 months later? You get a special assessment for $750. Is this the kind of management you want? We built this management up for 20 years. And we have excellent managers. And yet, they're being attacked, and we have a couple of members here that want to destroy the whole organization. They want Shelton to go, they want James to go, they want our attorney to go, and they want our bookkeeper to go. What is the end result of all this? So, I've said my piece. I made a special trip here to say this little speech, and I can't stay too much longer. But I had to get that in and let you folks know about what the situation is. Okay?
Thank you.
Excuse me, what's your name, please, and your condo, we don't know who you are.
Somebody addressing me?
Yes,
what's your name?
what's your name and your condo?
Mike Bakich.
Okay, because we don't know who you are.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, item number 3 on the agenda is the minutes, corrections and approvals. We have 2 meeting minutes, October 24th and November 13th. We'll take these one at a time. We'll start with October 24th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion.
We have a motion moved to approve. Is there a second? We have a second. Discussion?
Just as a quick discussion, Ramsey, who is the recording secretary, he put the minutes together, submitted them to me. I made just some minor changes to the minutes so that they followed the agenda of that particular thing. If a motion dies for lack of a second, then it's never in the minutes. So minor things like that, the minutes are pretty much as they were submitted.
I have correction. When Richard Waller was asked whether you could borrow money from a reserve account, it was recorded that he said you could borrow money from the reserve account, but what was left out was that he said it had to be replaced
Okay, so
within that reserve account.
that had to be replaced.
And one other place, close to the end, when we said that we would put the walkway, the walkover, the ramp, and the lagoon, the walkway was left out.
Actually, Scott Castle, listened to the recording, because I was in there, and that was a change I made, asked that why would we spend up to $20,000 versus maybe just spend $2,000. So in that meeting, we pulled that off of that particular piece until we could get information from the Department of Environmental Protection. Since it's at the end on the recorder here, if you would like, I'll note the minutes here that you believe that that's a correction. If we could just sit down and listen to it. The walkover, the dunes walkover portion was removed until we had a chance to talk with the DEP, because if we could remove the sand, then that might obviate the need for having to spend, I think you said, I forget you said an amount, on just use if it was 20,000 or 15,000 versus maybe spend 2,000. So we actually pulled that off, only for that one, until we could find out from the DEP. There was a side comment, John, it may have been you, that said something to the effect we can always add it back in if we needed to. So
Well,
that's why it's there.
in the action items below is in there. So it needs to be
Well, then we need to,
consistent.
all right, then we need to just change the action item for that particular one.
You have received the permit application for the DEP for the removal of the sand.
But
Yeah,
this is all on
stick to
minutes,
the
so
agenda.
this is just for the minutes. So what I'm gonna do is that it, on this, that it had to be replaced, and that we'll verify, if you're just gonna be here a little bit, it won't take long, we can look at it. Ramsey has it earmarked on the recorder, so we can go back to it. I've got it right here, and we can just go back and take a quick here. But that's the way it came out. But as you had said, John, we can also put it back on if we wanted to, but we needed to hear what the DEP said, and there's a slight report on that, for this meeting.
I don't remember what I said this morning, so are you fine with that?
It's just inconsistent. In one place it's out and in another place it's there.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Do you want to motion to amend
I,
to include these changes?
I make a motion that we amend Richard Waller's statement to include that we replace, if we borrow from a reserve account, it has to be replaced.
Scott, is your motion, she's,
That's like,
okay. We're fine with amending, so the motion is to accept the October 24th meeting minutes with the corrections that were just discussed.
Yes, we're in discussion right now since there's a motion, it's been
Yes.
seconded. unless we find that piece that was
Specifically,
was
the walkover
specifically the
was not on the
walkover.
report.
Nothing else was removed, the lagoon, and I believe the ramp to the gazebo was left in. Okay. I'll do that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Any, there's no opposition? So it's 5-0.
So now we'll do the November 13th minutes, which I do not believe there were any action items. So is there a motion to accept the November 13th?
Mhm.
So moved. Is there a second?
I second it.
Second, discussion, any issues with that one? Wrong board. All right,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Only because we're kind of moving on.
Yeah.
There is a slight thing that I just want to reserve when we get into it, of what I was telling you about that chance meeting with AT&T, just so that folks will know where that was. That, because we actually talked about Comcast, AT&T, what we were going to do.
We'll talk about under new
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
All right, so next is the treasurer's report. As of December numbers were in as of December 31st, but we did not have time to compile the report. So this is through November 30th. Cash on hand in the operating account is $150,000. We have current accounts payable of roughly $59,000. So our net cash in the operating account is $90,000. Actually, $91,000 rounding. Jean Benton had suggested, though she's not here today, that we should be pulling out the special assessments that have been paid, since those are already earmarked for expenses. But for the purpose of this report, we're holding it $91,000 in cash. Note that that is below what the audit mandated by the state suggested, which is 2 months operating expenses in hand. We are year-to-date rounding $34,000 in the red. That's through 2/3 of the year. If we project out, if we continue at that point, we will be about $50,000 at a loss for this fiscal year. And we would have roughly $74,000 left in the operating account, well below the 2-month minimum. If you actually do the math for that, that would add up to about $30 per month per unit in additional funds to balance the books, which brings us to the $495, which we had talked about in the August meeting. So that's what we're on track for. As you'll see in the financial statements, the August special assessment items were used to fund specific expenses for which there are shortfalls. It included some special projects such as the new beach gate and lock, extra insurance down payments, and we had increases in virtually every line item in the expense portion of the budget. Accounts receivables, we're out about $45,000 is our accounts receivable. However, the lion's share, almost $35,000 of that, is the outstanding special assessments. You may recall that owners were given the option of paying the entire assessment in one lump sum, or making a down payment and paying $110 a month for the balance of the year. So the vast majority of our accounts receivable are simply those assessments. And just to clarify, the assessment was $780 per unit or $65 per month. There was some information that had come across different owners suggesting it was a different amount, just to clarify. Our reserve accounts stand at $510,000. That includes 2 items that we keep in the reserve, which is the insurance and audit reserves, which are $65,000, which means our actual reserves for projects anticipated are right around $445,000. And that's the extent of my report.
Move that we approve the treasurer's report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Old business. And old business, I believe in this case, is the action items, and there were only action items from the October 24th meeting, and Ray is part of it. the opportunity to talk about that. And I'm just gonna go down them from the October 24th meeting. Mr. Davis moved to add sewer line repair to the 5-year maintenance plan.
Excuse me?
Yes, I'm
Can you
sorry.
go ahead and read the last letter? They're all 10/24/2014.
Yes.
And there's a letter. See, it's
On
A,
the
B, C,
action item
D.
sheet.
I was reading at the very bottom, action items.
Yeah, there's a
little
letter.
letter on the
I coded
designation
each one.
right there, right. Well. it's not
Each
on-
action item has a code number.
Like RD, JK?
Yeah, right
Oh,
there.
no,
RD,
See the little red-
is
see the
Ray
little red
Davis.
right there?
Yeah.
That's who's
See a
supposed to
little-
do it.
See a little thing right there.
I don't have them on this.
How do you not have that?
I printed out the actual minutes, and I didn't get the side letter attached.
Let me see your minute. What did you do?
If you look at the second page of it, you'll see.
No, it's right here. It's 10/24.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Read the last letter. The A means it was the first one, B second, C third.
Well, let's make sure I'm clear on this. You want me to read action item and the number?
No, you don't have to read the number. I know it's 10/24/2014 is October 24,
Right,
2014. Then there's a letter, which means it was the first, second, third, fifth
Yeah.
action item. Then there's initials for who is it
So
responsible.
you just want us to cut right to the chase and
Yeah, when you read an action item, tell me if it's A, B, C, or D, or
got it.
whatever.
All right. It's action item A. That's sufficient? These are
Mhm.
all from 10/24/13.
Right.
RD, Ray Davis and John claim to do by next board meeting. This was to add sewer line repairs to our 5-year maintenance plan, which has not been completed and duly noted will be added.
Yeah, in the actual recording, John, everybody agreed to just go ahead,
Yep.
so that's something that's in
That
process.
will be, yes,
So I'm
exactly,
gonna just show in process.
correct. Action item B, JK and RD, Ray Davis due by next board meeting. This was a survey of surrounding condominium developments as to how they addressed the copper pipe leak issue that we've been discussing. And I know Ray has had some discussion, so you have 3 minutes to summarize that, please.
Well, the folks get 3 minutes, and that takes a little bit longer, but here, that just to kind of give
Try
you,
to hold, please.
yeah, here's what we have. I have a handout for the board. Just as background, during the last meeting, we, let's see for the minutes. We discussed copper pipe issues that were associated with our properties and information that came from our attorney, Mr. Connor, and there were some questions as to legality of doing certain aspects of what was being proposed. There had also been a presentation by David Gray Plumbing out of Jacksonville, Florida, who had plumbed a beach condo, Bermuda Run, and so they presented and gave us some rough numbers. So as a result of that, during the discussion, John and I had an action item. I agreed to assist, because I'm here, to talk with other associations. Billy Ray suggested, why don't we find out what others have gone through and learn from them in case they're ahead of us. If we're ahead of them, they may be asking us. So today I commended Billy Ray, best thing we ever did. To give you an idea, these were random. These are just cold calls. Had never met any of these folks before, and there are 3 more who agreed to meet. We just never got our schedules together due to vacations. But to give you an idea, Beecher's Lodge, which started out as a motel-hotel arrangement and then converted to condominiums. They have 142 units, built in 1986, so roughly our time frame, which by the way was one of the caveats. Our time frame, at least more than 50, but roughly our size. They are going through theirs right now. Out of 140 units, they've had several of them done, but they did not know the exact number. What they did is they took a vote. There is no push. If there is no leak there, there is no push on it. However, if an owner wanted to do something with that, they could. But over in the comments, just so you'll know, there's a difference in price, and this is just, we didn't know if our pricing was right. But they only have 425 square foot units and 550 square foot units. So they had one price, one plumber, and this is the recommended or approved plumber, and that's how they approached it. I'm gonna drop down to another one though, that Ocean Village, very large organization on 26 acres of land, 348 units. They were built 2 phases, mid-80s, mid-90s, and yes, they are having leak problems. To date, as of January 1st, they'd had 50 to 60 that have already had to repipe their units, and they are in what's known as a stack arrangement. So in this handout, to tell you what that means, John, you're on 94. He's a first floor unit. 95 is above him, 96 is above that. Their shutoff valves are in stacks, where to turn off one unit, they shut off the 3 units in the stack. So you'll see a stack 4 or whatever. This happens to be one of those. They are going in, and as they repipe, as they come up, they are going in and doing something that was recommended here. They are putting an extra shutoff valve to that unit inside the unit. Placement is an issue. One of their folks decided they wanted that in the air handling unit. I'm not saying it's the best, but it may have been the only thing they had to do. So we didn't debate anything, it was just what was the information. Also in this one though, they, at Ocean Village, they are putting that valve inside at their location, but it is the owner's valve as opposed to the association valve. If you look at one of the other ones here, the condominium association is putting that valve inside the unit where the hot water heater is. Where we have units where the hot water heaters are inside, that might apply more to us. Overall though, we had one group, Ocean Gallery, here. All of these are on the beach, by the way. There's nobody that's off the beach. They have 438 units, plus they have some individual freestanding residences built in the early 80s, and then another section in the mid-90s. Out of 438 condos, they've had 150 repipes in their unit. It is on a per unit basis right now. Their governing docs are the ones that took care of it. They are approximately 50% rental, 25% second homes, and 25% residents that are there for more than 6 months out of the year. That one kind of fell closer to us. But they have had to go in, and if they take action within a unit and to mitigate their job, the community association manager is to mitigate a leak or whatever, then the owner is put on notice that, you know, the leak will be fixed, but now you're on notice that you need to make the move to repipe. That was another theme at another one of the locations there. So out of these, there'll be an attachment to the minutes, but I can tell you, I've invited Billy Ray and John to come back. It was a very eye-opening situation, but governing docs were involved. State law was involved. It varied. There was a common theme that came out of all of them, very similar to us. The docs may not be specific enough, or the law may be specific in one area, but maybe not based upon the configuration that they have. That's what we saw. There was a common word, ambiguity, kept coming out. So I met with no one that was, if they were just mowing the lawn, I mean, these were all community association managers, or they were organizations that were property managers who had somebody on premise that was what they called the property manager. And these were random cold calls. So I submit that, and then John asked me a question just today. In the presentation that we had from David Gray Plumbing, and I'm now treating it more as a cursory presentation. They said something about entering a unit and putting in a conduit or pipe chase was one of the terms. These folks did not do that.
Creating a soffit.
Creating a soffit. And some of the building units in phase 1 have a soffit there already that may serve electrical or whatever, but it juts out. And so I asked if any of that went on. That did not go on at any of the ones I spoke to, but one of the ones had a very novel way of doing it depending on the unit. On the first floor units, they entered the unit, they have to come under the slab like we would have to do. They did not cut the slab, and this was new. They did not cut it by a full cut. They cut in an unobtrusive corner about an 8x8 or 10x10 hole, and they jetted under the slab, ran it to that point, and then came through that outside wall. And at that point, they put a false wall in that was 1.25 inches off of the existing wall that runs all the way up. The association paid for that. So that's an assessment or whatever, but the association paid for it, but it did not change the look of that wall. So for those of us, and I can go on to the ones that we have on the first floor, I can give up 1.5 inches and probably wouldn't notice it. When they got into the walls of the common element, which would be the pipe chase, where those pipes come in out of the floor and go up to service all of them, the association was responsible only for those pipes at that point. As soon as it turned, and I'll just say made a left turn to come over to the bathroom sinks, to the kitchens, to the hot water heaters, wherever it left that became the individual unit owner. Prices ranged all over, and I want to cut this off. Prices ranged all over, but it depended on what the association allowed to be done, and was it a mitigating correction or was it a full one done by the association? It's all over the board. There are 3 other large ones that we want to attend, and I've invited both John or Billy Ray to do it. So that's the
So it's safe to say with the ambiguity, everybody made a business decision as to how to...
business decision, condo docs, law, or, by the way, you'll see one of these is self-managed. They have no CAM, they have no property manager, and they brought everybody together and came up. One did pass a resolution on another issue, but they didn't pass a resolution on this.
Okay. We're on to action item C. This is Julian Lewis due by next meeting. This has to do with Mr. Howard, like the slave question.
Right.
Didn't know who had ordered the relocation of a light fixture.
Well, it was not a light fixture, it was the result of the new venting. And the venting went out to the edge, and it had a grate over it. But he has promised us that he will, it's supposed to go through the roof, and so that it doesn't show up. But from looking at it from the ground, it looked like there were 3 lights there, which did not agree with the light that's against the wall. But that's being handled.
Okay.
So venting out through the wall with those white grates, they're not lights, they're the vents from the bathrooms or whatever.
Right.
And we wanted it up out of the
Yeah, it's supposed to, he said it was supposed to go through the roof, but the person who put it in put it going down, and you can see it. It's in the ceiling of the balcony.
Okay. And that was in building D.
All right, we're on to action item D. This has to do with follow-up by Ray Davis to talk with Mr. Waller regarding state statutes that he referenced concerning compilation reviews and audits, which were supposed to be added to the minutes. So I guess we've approved the minutes. Did they get into the minutes?
But I have that. Actually, there were 2 opportunities to meet with Richard. One was just a chance meeting in the office when I was in there with Gene. But I do have here's what would be attached to the minutes since they are approved. And basically it says that the law changed due to House Bill 6117, which caused an amendment to Florida Statute 718, which is the condominium statute. But anyway, it was effective July 1st, and so what I'd asked Richard, if I put the statute there, you would not like it, as Tim Connor knows. So what this is basic information. He gave me what the statute was. I went and read it and then took this, but basically it says that a compiled statement is required for associations of 75 or more units, and revenue, and this was the big change.
Right.
It went from, let's say, $100,000, it is now $150,000 up to $300,000, or just short. As soon as you get to $300,000, then a reviewed statement is necessary. And once you get to $500,000, then an audit statement is necessary unless the membership votes to put that off, but at every 3 years we have to do it. So it was the numbers we were trying to get in there that had changed, and so he gave me the statute, and I just took this out of the statute.
Okay, the review statement, should that not be 301,000 to 500,000?
Actually, it starts at 300, so it should say up to 290, it says to 299.
up here it says 150
Yes.
and 300,000.
So I'll say 299 right here.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what it is, though, is the kicker is when you hit 300, you have to do it. When you hit 500, you have to change it. Unless voted by the membership to postpone and waive the audit, and then you can back it up. In that same meeting, though, we did agree that Scott asked if before we send out the next agenda for the owners' meeting, we'll explain what the differences are so people will know what they were voting on when we send out that
Under
package.
718, the board can either, if the owners state that they do not want the audit except for every 3 years, the board themselves can review or ask for a review or compiled statement. Does not have to come from the owners under 718.
Okay, well, the reviewed or compiled, I didn't get into whether the board does it or the owners, but if they vote down, we've, in the past, have always put out, I guess Shelton have put out information saying, if you don't want an audited statement, do you want to compile or whatever, or review? The problem was, I didn't know what I was voting on until he was explaining it
But
like
the
that.
Florida statute now is specific. If we're in a certain dollar amount, it's got to be.
It's got to be one of these.
No. We have to have an audit unless it is stated, the owners vote and say, no, we don't want an audit. Then the board can determine if they want a compiled or reviewed statement.
That's not what you just reported on.
That's not what
it
I,
says
that's
right
not what I found. And so I guess if you would like, we can,
here. The state has
I
taken
can
that
table
option
this.
away from the owners. It's
Yeah.
within certain dollar amounts, it's got to be reviewed.
yeah, what I got was not that, Scott. As a matter of fact, just to be sure, I checked with the training for, that you can go, that state certified training for condominium board members, and it was almost the same. I mean, it was very close.
Yeah.
So, but if you want, I'll take that as just a re-review and then send it back to the board.
You can, but
Okay,
I think it's
That
pretty
was the only thing I
clear
didn't find out.
We get a compiled statement every month.
every month.
So usually, we get a reviewed statement at the annual.
Yeah.
And
Right,
then, of
it
course,
doesn't
every
mean we can't ask for a reviewed statement in between, but we do get a compiled statement. The other thing on that compiled is, it's based upon association records with no accuracy guaranteed or anything like that, which is written on our cover letter.
Let's move on. This is action item E.
Excuse me,
Yes,
is E considered completed?
it is, I believe, yes. Did you ask about D or E?
E,
We're on to E right now.
oh, I'm sorry, D is
D
completed.
is complete.
Okay.
Completed.
Excuse me, could you put
Yes.
some air please back here? Somebody's already had to leave.
Air conditioning
Yes, please, just a little, doesn't have to be freezing, thank
is,
you.
Kelly.
Kelly.
She's in there. Hopefully they'll be able to crank that on here. I don't know opening the door will help, but I think it's warmer out here.
It's warmer out here.
They're putting it on.
Yeah, let's wait till they turn the air on, Julie. Actually, I'll do it for you. Is that, are you at least getting some ventilation?
Not feeling better here.
We're feeling better up here.
They put on.
Julie, they're gonna turn on the air,
Okay.
so I just go ahead and close it. We're on to action item E. This has to do with bank signature cards, which I think has all been taken care of, correct?
I signed everything
Yeah.
that I needed to. John, I sent it to you, and
Yep, I
you
saw
made
it.
it the last time.
Yeah.
Everything's been handled.
Yep, so action item E's been handled. Action item F, by me next, by J.K. Clayman, asked if any updates on various RFPs, that we have something on Comcast contract soon. We do have a legal opinion from our attorney regarding the Comcast contract, and the bottom line is that either party had the ability to cancel that contract with 60 days' notice. That date was November 5th of last year, 2013. Neither party canceled it, therefore the contract was extended for 2 years. So the current expiration is now January of 2016, we're in 14, so we've essentially got 2 years left on the Comcast contract. So let's wait for the business. So,
John,
yes,
can I comment on it?
Yeah,
The name was on
abs-
there?
absolutely.
I think in reality, there was also in, Tim will remember, there was really something wrong with the contract,
Conflict.
the conflict, thank you. And Tim, on the association's behalf, wrote a letter to him saying that the contract is null and void.
Right.
Now, in spite of all that, in all honesty, I think we're beyond the point of doing anything. We've lost the opportunity to try and make any changes to
Well, and Tim did weigh in.
include the items that we wanted to do.
Yeah, Tim did weigh in on the discrepancies. Some were signed, some weren't notarized. One was signed by one party. And I would actually say that time is the enemy of all deals. If we were looking at 30 days left on a contract with Comcast, I think we would be at a great disadvantage. I think having 2 years, given some information that Ray will address during new business, I think actually puts us in a much better position. Because at the end of the day, we're one very small component of Comcast's customer base. The only leverage we've got is competition. If we can identify competition, we've got something that gives us a little bit of leverage against, otherwise we'd be an impossible opponent. So we will get to that.
I will agree with you, we're beyond the point of doing it.
Yeah, yes.
We've lost our opportunity.
And 2 years from 13 would be November 5th.
Actually, the date was January 5th of 14 that it auto-renewed. They just didn't give notice by November 5th. So it's January 5th, 2016, roughly 2 years. All right, we are on to action item G. This has to do with the ad hoc committee for the roof repairs, which we did at the October 24th meeting. That committee has met and issued an RFP. So item 7 has been completed.
Who was on the committee?
Committee was Jim Wahardis, myself, and James Hardy. We're on to...
Just a question
Yes.
on that, and John, we'll go offline. For the minutes, I do believe in the cover letter, we should have put some performance requirements for on-premise activities that were not there. All the performance requirements were toward the GAF specs and all, which I am a GAF person, I've been very good. Where I was going, where I had written, but unfortunately I was out of town, was the issues of when you work, that you follow the noise requirements of St. Augustine Beach, that there's no work on Sunday. So I would like to sit down with you and Jim and James and give you, as somebody who used to have to respond to those for very large corporations, Con Edison, people like that, I was the responding person. I believe we need to go and do that, not wait till the contract, but either amend it and send it back out, or give them an alert that we will reserve the right to amend these, so that maybe some of the experiences and the complaints that we received on Building D, we can anticipate them in advance and take care of it. That was my part.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the materials or anything like that.
Right. So what I'd ask is that you submit it to the entire committee via email,
I will.
just given the distances and responsibilities.
You would
The other
have a
thing-
conference call. That would be it. And sit down, so people know.
I find it's much more efficient if you put it in writing.
I will. No,
Get it,
and
get it,
discuss
and then if we need to talk by phone, we can arrange that. The other thing is just to clarify, the purpose of the RFP, you may recall we had people come in last August and talk about the useful life of this roof. We've gotten some other information since then from Pittman Roofing that does the maintenance, calling into question whether we really have a shorter useful life than we were led to believe. Be that as it may, the real discussion was that some people had gotten some proposals that suggested maybe we had the money in hand in our reserve accounts. So the real purpose of this RFP is to try and determine in 2014, what do we think it's going to cost to put the right product on this condominium development that sits on the ocean. And then we can compare that to the reserves in hand, compare that to useful life, project out where we're going to be, are we going to need a special assessment. So I'm all for the things you're talking about. There's nothing in this RFP that binds us to that we could not subsequently include those types of specifications.
One of the things is wind mitigation report, right, if you'll put that down, because that's required, is it required by the state or the insurance companies are required to lower our insurance rates if we have a wind mitigation report.
I believe that came up in another meeting, I just don't remember when it did, but that's in another meeting, and it will lower our insurance, and we're going to be talking about
really
it.
dealing with
It will help, it will lower, but if it's required, you get it, and once that mitigation, it's like a report of a professional saying, yes, this will conform to the Miami standards, then we get our insurance lowered.
And this report is something that the
Roofer does.
contractor does.
Excuse me,
Yes,
this wind mitigation issue,
yes.
is that something someone's looking into? I didn't catch that.
No, we're not looking into it.
That would
It's
be, that
it's a
should be part of the
recommendation.
Part of the RFP, it's
add
got
to
to
the
pass.
RFP.
But is
Any
someone
subsequent
responsible to
time.
make sure it's there?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Actually, the ad hoc committee has that responsibility.
Okay, so that's an action item. Okay.
Let's be clear. This would be, we're suggesting we should add a wind mitigation report to any subsequent contract to do the roof.
Correct.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's the action item.
And
If
it's
we
you.
go to contract.
And it's you?
At this point, I'm not signing any contracts.
No, who's looking into the wind mitigation addition?
We're in agreement that a wind
We're just in
mitigation.
agreement to put
agreement
it
that a
in there.
wind
It was,
mitigation.
someone has to be responsible to make sure it's there. Who's that?
Chairman of the ad hoc.
There you go.
Yes. Thank you, Ramsey. He always seems to get me.
I've got a little IA right next to your initial.
All right, we're on to action item H.
John,
Yes, I'm sorry, Jim, I'm sorry.
back to the RFP.
Yeah.
There are a couple of items, and this is my fault, I've not had a chance
Which one's
to
H?
review it this time. There are a couple of items in that RFP by GF that I would recommend and change.
That's A.
So
Yeah, sure,
whenever
yeah,
you'd like to
that's great,
discuss that, this
Yeah.
is the meeting.
Can you email me, because I'm here for a short period?
Yeah.
Shoot me an email, and if we need to, we'll hook up on the phone, and we can even submit something to them individually, say,
Fix that.
make these adjustments.
Okay.
But we'll talk about it. Yes,
The RFP hasn't gone out yet,
yes,
has
it
it?
has gone on.
So why would it go out before Jim got a chance to review it?
Jim
Well,
had a
I
chance.
did have a chance, it was sent to me, I've not had the time in my life to give it the attention before it went out.
I just want to say I'm disappointed that you didn't utilize Kurt Musser, who has 30 years of experience in that. I just feel like you had a resource available that you did not use.
All right, these will come under the owner comments, all right? This is an action item.
Everyone
Being
else has had an
discussed now.
opportunity to discuss it.
I offered in August meeting my services,
Mhm.
and never once did you ask me to help
That's
after
correct.
that. I have 30 years' experience in contracting, RFPs, analyzing, reviewing, and contracting, and I offered to help. When I saw this RFP for the first time 2 nights ago, I would tell you with a certainty of 99.99% accuracy that if you leave that as it is and you award a contract under that RFP, we as owners in Ocean Village are screwed. Okay?
Okay, thank you for your comment.
And in the November meeting, I mentioned to the president about the wind mitigation report. That was last, on 13th of November. And somehow you've never heard about it, and people are just now hearing about it. I would like to know why the president never informs you and the ad hoc committee about the wind mitigation report.
I can't answer that. We're not here to answer to these comments right now. We're trying to get through the action items. It's been noted. We've added that the wind mitigation would be added to any contract that would be subsequently let, and it is what it is. The RFP does not necessarily have to include that, but a subsequent contract will.
Yeah, we said 1 minute, 2 subsequent contracts,
Right.
and you have to.
Be advised, in the current state of condition of that RFP, it is a disaster for this organization.
And I respectfully disagree, and I appreciate your
And I
comment.
would like to ask you, what basis are you basing your do you have any experience
An
in?
RFP can be amended by addendum, so the contractors know what to do.
All right.
It's not that big a
We're
deal.
going to stop this right now. All right, there's a time for people to make comments, and you're welcome to make those comments.
Okay, I will, I will.
There is a sign-up sheet, by the way, if anybody did not hear it. Please feel free to sign up. We are on to action item H, BOD, Board of Directors. This was simply to add the gazebo ramp and lagoon drainage on the annual meeting ballot for approval of a special assessment, correct?
To
Add a reserve?
pass it, and, no, not to add a reserve, it was just to add it for a vote so that we would find out, do the owners want this to be done? It didn't say as a special
It doesn't
assessment.
have to be a special assessment.
It didn't, there was nothing, all it was put it on.
I understand,
for a vote.
but practically speaking, it has to be a special assessment fund, correct?
We don't know that yet. That was the thing in the motion. The motion is to get it on the ballot so that we can hear what the owners want us to do. It could be because it could be considered a material alteration. I take issue with one of them. Material alteration is the term. And so with that was all that it was. So it passed. That is to be done next year when we put the packages together. You put it in there and you say, do you want this done? And we have to explain what it will be about. It does not say if there are savings or anything like that. It doesn't say that. Here's what the cost will be.
I understand that, but here's your issue. You're going to go before people to say, do you want to do it? Then you're going to turn around and have to go back to them.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, yes.
when you put it on the ballot, put it in a separate section called straw ballot or poll, and people will understand it's not binding.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Yep. Straw ballot or poll will be added to the annual meeting.
And stick the words non-binding.
And then that next board, I feel like that's all.
Okay.
Similar to what Bill Schaefer did.
All right, we're done with action items. There were no action items on the November 13th meeting. So we're on to agenda item 6, new business. The first issue is appointment of an insurance committee. So this is the committee. I'll let you make a motion to appoint that committee.
They're already working on our insurance because we've been getting information from various insurance companies for the last 2 or 3 months. But I am just simply appointing the committee now, and I am appointing Billy Ray Foister as the chairman, Gene Benton, Wendell Lewis, and Chip Williams from that committee.
Great.
Yep. And Wendell Lewis?
Wendell.
Are any of those owners?
Pardon?
Are any of those people owners?
They're all owners.
Yes. They're
Okay.
all owners.
Okay.
Well, Jean Benton is the one that handles, she's our accountant, bookkeeper.
Is this in the form of a motion or it's an announcement? Or
Well,
what?
it's just, I'm just
President can
appointing
appoint
a committee.
On this, Chip Williams was one of the ones that had spoken, I don't know if it was the August meeting or October meeting, because he's in insurance. He's got background knowledge, so.
Yeah, agreed. Under new business B, board discussion on submitted RFPs on the following items. We'll take them one at a time. Front office lease. Who would like to start that discussion?
Where do we stand with the front office lease? We gave our responses. We had a reply within 30 days or something like that. What is the status? I guess.
I think the status is, do we want to take a vote to implement?
Implement an RFP?
No, implement the contract.
The front
Front office lease. This was what we talked about in the October 24th? I wasn't here for
It was October 24th.
Right.
It was presented to us that
It
day,
had
but
been
we
pointed
hadn't
out,
seen it.
it had been pointed out that a lease was essentially month to month and had been month to month for some time. A lease was drafted specifying the duties here for the condominium association. It was given to the board that day, and we agreed to, for at least 30 days, give everybody a chance to review it. Comments, I am not familiar with
There were actually two parts of it. There were two separate ones submitted. The first one was just a lease, that we did not have a lease. What we actually had was a tenancy at will, which can be canceled by either party. And so that was one discussion. Then the second one was submitted as, here are the activities that the office would provide to Ocean Villas at a cost of $16,920 a year or $1,410 a month. And included in that, Julian read off what those were, and questions arose on that second piece as to what our CAM or association manager should be doing, that many of those pieces appeared to be association manager duties versus office clerical duties. So we asked that RFPs go out as a result of that, but in doing so, obviously we weren't ready for RFPs, so we said, we're just seeing it, can we review it, and then everybody was to respond. So I don't know, Julian, if you got responses from everybody. I know I sent one in.
I had no changes. I did point out in the October 24th meeting that this is essentially a month-to-month lease, cancelable by either party with 30 days notice. So there is virtually no risk to either party. You want to cancel it, you cancel it. If you subsequently determine that you want to bring somebody else into it, you cancel it. So this is more a matter of dotting our I's and crossing our T's as an association with respect to services being provided.
Why can't we put out an RFP on this?
I would like, even though it is a 30-day, and we're at a tenancy at will, you're in real estate, so it's something that is out there. That's the same thing. We still have the 30 days. This was putting, I guess, something in writing that takes over from the tenancy at will. So if a tenancy at will was fine for many years, why don't we just, I'd have to say the same thing, but if this signing says we've got this in place, and that's all it's for, fine. I'd actually move to do it for 90 days, but we had a 90-day lease, and the board didn't like that, so.
Well, no, your 90 days said we put out an RFP, and that's that gets to the heart of the question.
Yes. So for discussions, I'll move that we put out an RFP for the lease of this office space. It's only for the lease. I'm not talking about the duties, just for the lease.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
And it doesn't say who's in there or anything. It's only to put out an RFP.
Anybody got comments?
As a comment, I like the way the ad hoc committee approach goes. So I feel that we ought to take that approach. I know you're busy, but if a Billy Ray or somebody would like to do that, we'll work with him or whatever. Obviously, I feel strong about it, but Billy Ray, I'm not trying to load your plate up too much, but if you've been here a long time, I do feel that we ought to have an ad hoc committee approach like we did with the roof, like we've done with some other things.
Well, if nobody else has comments, I'll make comments. I personally think the services being provided are economic, are very valuable. I think putting out an RFP when there's no justifiable reason to suggest that it would save money if it's just the clerical support in question is a vote of non-confidence in the party. It is an attempt to drive a wedge. It is not good business to do that to somebody that's providing services. If you want to come up with some suggestion how you get a full-time person in there for less than $16,000, and as you said, has nothing to do with management services, then I think you need to put that report together and provide it to the board to be considered. Otherwise, I would not be, I do not see the value in sending out an RFP.
But let me give some background, and this for folks that were here at that time or not. Back, I guess you were on the board before, Billy Ray, you were president. Apparently the issue came up before, and somebody on the board, I can't say who did.
You can come in.
Somebody on the board checked around and said that we are price competitive for square footage.
Excuse me.
And so my approach was, though,
Actually, the statement was there because I was at that.
Yeah.
We are way more on square footage
Square
basis
footage.
because people had
What
questioned
the
whether
average
the rent
commercial-
should go up. And it really is a bit misleading to look at it in terms of square footage.
That's exactly where I was going with that, thank you, because where I'm going with it is, are we market competitive for what we're paying? And the whole issue, and it was, for those minutes are in there, we get paid $700 plus tax, so we get to keep $700, we pay out $1,410. The issue was, we're at a negative. If
That's not a proper characterization because there are services being.
I understand that,
So
but
how's that a negative?
that's where I'm going. I'm going there. Hold, Scott.
No,
Where I'm going is so for what we get in for the services, granted services are provided. Some of the services I question as to should or can be provided. Hence, we might not have to pay the same amount of money for $310.
Let's clarify too. CAM is a designation.
It's a
It's not a
certified.
title.
Yeah, it's a community
He's a property
association.
manager who has a CAM license.
Right, has a
Why
CAM
does it
license.
say he handles all day-to-day operations in his job description?
Yeah, but hold on, Scott. Let me just finish my part here. Hold that one though. But where I was going though is, in market pricing, you put out an RFP and find out what will the market pay, because to buy a Chevrolet Corvette right now, you're going to pay the full price. There's not a lot of wiggle room because people want it, the demand is there. What would the market be willing to pay? It doesn't mean a change takes place. And Scott said that he had spoken with a company that would come in and pay more for the rental piece and would perform office clerical duties at no charge. So my light bulb went on to your question. Now, that's my answer. What if somebody would come in and would perform those duties at no extra charge and would be willing to pay more than we're getting? That's the market-based pricing that I was saying. We ought to test the
I
market.
understand. And so the two are joined at the hip. You're not replacing the resort rentals clericals unless you're also replacing property management, our in-house, correct?
No.
Basically what you just said.
No, that's the wrong thing. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying the property manager is sitting in that office. What I'm saying is if somebody wants to come in and run a rental office in our space so designated.
But you know we cannot do that by the bylaws. We can't rent, we
We are not
cannot
as
use
a condo.
space for anything
We're not.
other than.
I haven't changed that. I'm not changing that. They run their business.
No, that's what I'm saying, you
That's
can't
what-
do that. The bylaws state that the property can only be used for condo association business.
Exactly.
Right.
And so if that property for a condo association business, if they give out keys, if they give out parking passes, they are conducting condo association business
On behalf of the condo association.
on behalf of the condo association, and in so doing, that's how they get that space in the RFP. That's how they get it, at no charge. That's where I was going. So, and I'm not saying, I have no idea, but let's just say, if we get 700 now and somebody wants to pay 800, there's a plus 100, but it immediately gets us out of $1,410. That is positive money. When you asked the question earlier,
So
how would we pay for
let's
something?
address the positive money.
I'm not saying we would get it.
Right. You're looking at numbers, you're looking at monthly, annual expenses. There's been nothing presented to the board that talks about the quality of the service that is provided for the grounds, all right? So the problem, the one thing that binds all 138 of us is a real estate investment. The bottom line is not expenses in our budget, because you can slash those all day long. The bottom line in a real estate investment is the value. So, if you cut 51,000 out of your expenses, as you claimed several times, that works out to $270 per unit per month. What I've not seen is any, as I'll state the second time, analysis of the quality of the service provided. So here's the bottom line. If that company comes in and the landscaping goes down, at the quality of the maintenance in the pool area.
We're not talking
We're
about
not talking
property
about-
managers.
Listen
We're talking about
to
just the
me,
lease.
please let me finish. The bottom line is if those services diminish and everybody's unit drops in the marketplace, and trust me, the marketplace knows what's going on. The marketplace knows what's going on right now. If you drop $5,000 in value per unit, times 138, you've lost $690,000.
Fear tactics don't work on us.
That is the bottom line in real estate.
Fear tactics.
Excuse me, point of order, this is a board discussion, that's all that's supposed to be.
Point of
What it
order.
is.
I thought you
We're
were
not
leaving.
talking about a management company, we're talking about the lease space. You've just taken it something else as a point of order. I'm talking the lease of this space and those services provided by whoever leases those space, which I call clerical duties. That's all we're talking about. You just went to a management company. This space right
You
here.
stated that you talked to a company that could do the management.
No,
and
no,
do
no,
that for
no,
free.
no, no,
No,
not
we're
management.
talking about a real estate
Wanted to
company.
lease. He reported that they wanted to lease the space.
And I said by bylaws, you can't lease it to a real estate.
If they're then how do we lease it right now?
That's more of a reimbursement for expenses than a lease. This agreement addresses.
This is a real estate company right here.
John, I want to keep real focused right here. I'm looking at this window. The services being performed today, the array services you use, that we all use when we go in there, if we need to get the office open, if we need to go in and put something in the books, or those services, everything that's being done today is the RFP. I'm not talking about management companies or anything. I'm talking about associated with this lease. The things that Julene read out. What I'm saying is by putting out an RFP, it means Shelton's company would respond to the RFP, and if she is awarded the contract, she is still there. She has performed it, but maybe not at additional expense. But you had the wrong impression, and that's what the misinformation that can go out. I want to be sure. This is not a management company.
Does anybody like to call the question?
Call the question.
Is it seconded?
Here's the motion.
No,
Yes.
we're on the question. We're on the question. The question was called, are we stopping discussion on the motion?
Yes, I second this.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Discussion ended. The
Right.
motion
And your
is,
vote was to cut discussion, which was, I didn't hear.
All right.
So it was unanimous on the question.
okay, and the motion now before us is
The motion that we send out an RFP for
for
the
clerical services in this
clerical
office.
services and the lease of that space.
They're
That's
one and the same.
one of the same.
All right, so, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Yes, it was seconded by Scott.
Okay, any more discussion?
Well, we ceased discussion, so we're on the
So we,
vote.
okay, that's right, so the vote, all in favor of sending out an RFP for the clerical services and the lease for the office directly behind me. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
I vote
All
no.
right, now, I'm going to say something. We have a conflict of interest, which is a couple items down, and according to this, the board members that are associated with resort rentals
We will
cannot
get to
vote
that
on
under
this.
item C. We still have 3 more under item D. You will have a chance to address that.
So that will be noted as the vote may end up being a non-vote if that should be the case. If it is determined that there is a conflict of interest and you need to exempt yourself from voting and you didn't vote and it becomes a non-vote,
That's
just
fine.
note it.
Yep. Certified public accountant, I assume it's going to be the same discussion?
Yes.
All right, so would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to put out RFPs for CPA services.
All right, is it seconded?
Second.
Discussion? Anybody have comments about CPA service?
Yes, I do. As a businessman and owner for over 30 years, I knew what my costs were for CPA services. When I was asked by Billy Ray to look into our contract when it was first put on the board, I just talked to some CPA firms, not getting specific, just asking what the cost would be for approximately 140 unit condo complex. I talked to my CPA first, which we cannot use because it is a conflict of interest. and he was between $650 to $750 a month, plus postage and FedEx, if applicable. And if we had direct deposits, it would go down $75 a month. So he was between $575 and $675 a month. Mike has been in business for 20-something years. I also talked to our auditors that did our audit work. And they gave us a price of $700 a month from our auditors. Now, if they're good enough to audit, they're good enough to take care of our monthly fees. They're $700 a month plus the year end, which we also pay extra for. I got a third CPA firm here in St. Augustine that do a lot of condos also, CRI, and their services were $850 a month, and that included our year-end report. We are presently paying $1,825 a month, so minimum savings of over $1,000 a month. Also did a review on our reviewed statements, and the average cost for a reviewed statement is $1,950 for the year. We're paying $2,400 a year. Audits, average, again, this was going, we did an audit last year. An average audit, and again, this is coming through a lot of different companies, is $3,700. So our next audit we can get done for approximately $3,700. On our tax return, I have two different companies that'll do them for $200, as long as they're doing our stuff. We're paying $1,050. And then our compilation, he charges, I think it was a little over $1,000 to get a compilation done for $200. So our tax return's $200 versus $1,000. $850 high-end for a CPA firm that does multiple condos in the area instead of $1,800. Right there, we're saving about $13,000 to $14,000 a year.
Do those figures include all your special assessments that will be coming along that you mail out? And you have all the extra effort going into special assessment. Now, do your accounting...
Wait a minute, why is he
include-
getting to speak and I didn't get to speak? Excuse me?
Yes, point of order.
Scott, I do have a question.
Okay.
What is your problem?
On the review costs, what we pay versus.
Please.
The review costs, let me see, a reviewed financial statement, the average is $1,950. We paid $2,400.
Other discussion? Opposing point of view?
I know the company that we've had, that, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't they the #1 ranked condo, that do the audits and the work for the condos up and down here? Did the research show that they're right at the top?
Janice Lake?
No, the
No,
water.
Waller. He does a number of condos. Well, I can assure you of this. There is not a single certified public accountant in this town that will do what Richard Waller's office does for us. I interviewed virtually all of these CPAs way back when we hired, actually it started with Robert Daly. Bob Daly, and then Richard, when he retired, Richard took over his position. But the work that Jean Benton does for this association is something that very few people realize. She does a great deal of our correspondence. In fact, virtually all of it has to do with accounting. Contacting the unit owners for the collections of past due assessments. She answers a great deal of our letters. People write her and she responds and sending copies to the association. There's far more work that she does for us than any of these. Most of these will only take in your money and write checks. They don't do all of the other stuff that is necessary with Richard Waller's office.
Just
does.
write it into an RFP and see.
All right, please, point of order.
Can we write
To
into
that,
an
to that,
RFP?
that was where I was gonna go, because Bill Ray, what you brought up is correct. If they, we can check the rankings, if in fact you had checked years ago, I don't know how long ago that was, but you know, maybe something has changed. Maybe Scott has something here that says times have changed. The only way we find out is by putting out the RFP. It doesn't mean that Richard might not be doing it, but at the same time, we put in, here are the services we want to do, and I have to go back to the prior discussion. Are there some things that Richard outlined in his presentation to us in October that maybe our manager, our property manager, or our community manager should be doing that we've evolved into doing, and in fact, maybe we should not be having her do that. For instance, having her go get the insurance for us, having her go to the post office for us on, I don't know if they're related or unrelated matters. When he was outlining some of those things, and it's in the notes and in the minutes, it was very clear that there are some things, but are they appropriate for what we're doing? So Richard's comment to us was, on the, and Ramsey will have a copy too, very clear, he said, you want to be sure you get apples to apples. As an organization, and John, I look to you as treasurer, we should sit down and determine what are all of these things that they do, and then put out an RFP, which he said they're not required to respond to, but at the same time, we can put an RFP out and say, these are the things, what would you charge for us to do this, and include things. But if an ACH or whatever saves us money and people do that, then maybe we get more of this. All I'm saying is how do we know until we go there? And that was yours. And times may have changed. Is it not appropriate, though, to go test and say, they may come back and say it's more than what we got, and we find out we got a great deal. We don't know.
Well, I can assure you that the difference between the various accounting firms that I interviewed with 2 or 3 other people, it's a vast difference. They only take in the money and they pay the bills, and they don't give you a compiled statement, they just give you a statement. Just like Belcher Magruder, when they were in here as our management company, their trial balance was off by over $60,000, and yet they handed us a financial statement. They had no idea that there was a problem with their statement, because they don't have accountants, they don't have CPAs working and doing this.
You can pay an independent CPA firm $200 a month to do a compiled statement.
Not what these people do for this association.
But again, it's not arguing. The only issue is, let's keep it germane to the subject, is the reason for the RFP is to find out. We don't know how old your information is. Scott says he has information that's recent. It says antenna went up. There might be a savings. It doesn't mean that the savings is what we do, because as a board, we will still vote as to whether to accept it, just like there was a vote to do the audit and which company was done. There was a couple of companies that were in there. The board chose to take the company, not the least expensive, but maybe by more than $250. All I'm saying is that would be appropriate for what we are doing right now. And it's not a vote of no confidence. It's saying there's an expense differential here. Why don't we find out? John, you're the treasurer, you're the perfect person. You have people that are here that have been here, it doesn't have to be me. There are other owners that have financial backgrounds. Just let them do like an ad hoc committee. That's all it is.
But we've got perfect audits for the last 5 years, and it scares me on changing something, and whatever it takes for Ocean Villas to be #1,
Yes.
I don't care what it costs us, we need to maintain the integrity that we have. And you know, unless the wheel is broken, you know, and I respect it.
That's broken.
Well,
Please, point of order.
He does have it, yes, insurance.
Well, I respect, you know, Scott's research on it, because he did what I had asked him to do. And, you know, the figures sound good, but the services that have to be provided for us to maintain our integrity has got to be first class.
That's what an RFP is for, though.
Mr. Chairman,
That is,
Mr. Chairman,
That is exactly what we
the
do.
parliamentary sanction for constant interruptions is to remove them from the list up there, barring that expulsion.
All right, everybody, please note, this is not the time for, this is a
Billy,
board
right there,
discussion.
I
This
wish
is
you,
board discussion.
if we put that into the RFP, similar to what we were talking about earlier, you put performance standards and you outline it together. I believe Richard and Jean, now this is just me, this is conjecture, I don't know it for sure, but I believe they would tell us all the things that they do for us. Then we, as a committee, as a board, however you want to approach it, can come in, look at those things and say, should they be doing this? Yes, no. We like it. We keep it there. Then you draft your RFP to go out to anybody, Richard Waller to get it. Let them come back and say, we can do it for this, or we cannot do it, or they're going to, whatever the case may be. It doesn't mean we would impugn it, but we have to put the performance standards in that RFP. And right now, Richard is doing a very good job. Can it be done for less and get the same business? I'm not saying it can't.
I ran a business that did $10 million a year, not huge, not small. It was run on QuickBooks, which is basically what they are running right now. They receive 138 checks a month. They pay out about 25 to 30 checks a month, maybe 40.
More than that.
So I'd say there's 50 checks a month. All it does is what goes in comes out. So you've got a debit and a credit. All you do is you have a ledger, you keep up with each of the individual owners as the check comes in, you post it to there. It's a very, very simple process. Sure, she might be doing other things that is not called for, such as insurance. Why a CPA is doing the insurance, I don't know. But the bookkeeping itself is a very simple process, and that's why we have 3 different companies, between $700 to $850 CPA firms. Our auditor is at $700 a month. I mean, what more do you need? If we find there's a problem, they could be removed. But if they're a CPA firm, they have guidelines by the state that they have to do.
Any other discussion?
Literally, I'm not opposing what you're saying, that we have to maintain the standards.
The auditors, the last 3 years have said we've had the best audit of any of the units, and they did units all the way from Daytona to Jackson.
But our auditor,
That was
But they audited the ones that Richard Waller does.
I only did it the one time. You know, we just had our first one here in 2012, and that was late in the, so I know we have, but this one right here, the most recent one, we get a compiled or reviewed report each year, and that's Richard doing his own, which is legal to do. That he's a CPA, so he can do that. All we're saying is, if that were the case, then we would be doing an audit every year, which we don't because of the expense, and we're not required by the state to do it except for every 3 years. So that's all it is. It doesn't mean he's doing a bad job. It's just, can it be done because, and it's only because we keep being told that we don't have money for this. If we as a board in our fiduciary responsibilities, we should be looking at same services, or if it's a service that really question why are they doing it as opposed to somebody else, like the insurance, then if that means we don't have to pay as much and we can save some money, that could be reused for something else.
We're starting to repeat ourselves here, so
But we're with you.
I'm going to make one comment. We are here to discuss these specifically because of the special meeting called by the owner. So we're discussing these. I think we have many bigger projects that should be our focus. And I say that in light of the handout that we got last April that showed out of, I think, some 15 to 16 condo developments on St. Augustine Beach. We were at one, if not the lowest in terms of our monthly assessments. So it begs the question, is really how much more can you drain out of this thing if it's already being operated less than the rest of the marketplace? With that in mind, we're going to have this same discussion on the management company and attorney. We're going to hear the same arguments. So we're going to take a vote on CPA, and we're going to move on to the next two, and we're going to limit discussion because it's the same argument, and we're not going to waste everybody's time to hear it again. All right? So,
Since we're still in discussion, though, when you mentioned bigger projects, that's the 5-year plan, to identify all the projects, the cracks in the pool,
yes, I
the
know.
pavement issues, all of
understand.
those are in there, and so, but what this is a more near term, we need to
I
go find out
understand
what we
exactly,
don't know.
I understand exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Somebody
Predicated,
like to call the question?
I call it closed.
Second? Seconded. All right, the question is, we send out an RFP for the certified public accountant. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no.
No.
I vote no. Please, point of order. This is a board discussion. Right, we're going to move right to management company, which I'm assuming is, somebody will make a motion similar to the last two. Let's make the motion, and then we'll have the discussion.
Make a motion that we discuss
It's not
the,
given to us prior to the meeting. So I haven't had a chance to look at
The
it.
motion, please.
make a motion that we discuss the property management, and putting on an RFP to them, for, consideration of, well, an RFP for a management company.
I
Please
say
restate it.
your motion is.
My motion is to send out an RFP to management companies for ocean building.
And we've established it's going to be the same thing for attorneys, so we're going to limit this discussion. Scott, 3 minutes, please go over this. We've not had a chance to look at it.
This is just basically an RFP for management company. This could be submitted to all the management companies. This is the duties that they do, and I think it was passed out. I don't know, was it passed out to everybody? No, there is a copy for everybody here, or most everybody here, that you can see what a management company can do. They are on a yearly contract. If you find that there is a problem with them during the year, it can be canceled, but they are.
On the motion, made the motion, I will second the motion that way.
There was no second.
There was no second, so it's just.
So,
Okay.
right,
So
so
They talk.
we're in discussion.
Yeah.
The second one.
I got it.
Just to go through here, the management companies will attend all the board meetings, take and prepare all the minutes, have them back to us within 4 business days. They will handle all of our annual meetings, distribute all the paperwork, handle all the elections. Quick administration, process incoming, outgoing mail, respond to all written requests in a timely manner, same-day complaint and contact response, develop as needed an email system to communicate with owners on community matters as required by the board, provide 24/7 after-hours answering and emergency services. I'm just hitting the highlights. Provide for the creation and maintenance of an association website. Perform all day-to-day operation functions necessary to implement the policy decisions of the board. Conduct regular, but not less than weekly inspections, and direct here after this meeting is over to answer any questions. So if anybody would like to stay and answer any questions, they will be by here after the meeting is over.
You're talking about May management, I believe that they also escrow all of our money. All of their condominiums goes into one fund.
No.
So our money will be,
We have.
Is that
Illegal.
illegal?
That'd be illegal.
Oh, my God.
most of these management companies do that. They have one bank account, and our funds are handled in this manner. The same thing happened with Belcher Magruder. They took all of our funds and put it in one bank account. And I have heard some rumors about May management that they just might not be in business in the next 2 or 3 years.
I got a little article out of the newspaper that just came out.
Scott,
Okay.
this is a board discussion.
A point of order would be to address your comments to the board.
Yes, this is a board discussion.
Okay, I have a little article that just came out this past week about Maine Management celebrating their 25th anniversary. They employ more than 150. They employ more than 150 Northeast Florida residents. They do 150 communities that include 55,000 total properties. They do, let's say, Deer Creek that has over almost 700 homes.
Mr. Castle, point of order, you basically are asking for an RFP to be sent out, but you're advocating for a specific company right now?
No, I'm just, she asked me.
Yeah, that was probably an inappropriate question.
This is in response to her.
And we are getting far afield from the question, and we agreed when we talked with the CPA that we're gonna have the same discussion. It really comes down to whether we're doing RFPs for these services. So.
But if something is said about it, we have an opportunity to respond.
With approximate cost of a management company runs around $33,000 a year. The extra cost that you do have is postage and handling, and your own, basically, they employ our employees. So whether it be Jim or James or whoever, become their employees. We lose our liability on workman's comp. They handle all of that. And it's $33,000 a year, which includes our CPA, which is, what, $24,000 a year. It includes a CAM, and it includes all services.
We're getting far afield from the question.
Which is $51,000, which
the only
property
thing,
management can save us.
If this is I don't know, boilerplate, using a term, if this is a boilerplate similar to what Jim provided on an RFP, the motion is that we send out an RFP to management companies that serve the area. I'm not looking for somebody out of New York. So I want to be sure that that's what we're talking about. But if this is a boilerplate, then similar to what you did, why don't we do with this, have an ad hoc group, put it together, and come back, just like we did.
That would be a separate motion.
Well, two is RFP, but
does somebody want
it
to
takes
call
a
a
committee.
question?
Takes a committee to do this.
I called the question.
Question's been called. So is the question,
I'll second the question,
all right,
just to cease debate.
right. So the question on the table is, do we send out an RFP for the management company? All in favor?
But it's not whether the actual, let me get the wording exact here. His motion was to send an RFP for management companies.
Isn't that the same thing?
Oh, okay, I thought you said if we would send one, but it would be the same.
A word to change. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You're opposed? I vote no.
I'm confused to the vote.
The vote was 2 to 3 defeated, 2 to 3.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move on to attorney. It's going to be the same discussion. Somebody like to make a motion?
Like to make a motion to discuss an RFP for an attorney.
No, to discuss.
You
might want to sit down first. No, you can stay.
To send out RFPs for
Is there a second?
attorneys.
I'll second it.
Discussion, please. Let's limit it. It's essentially the same discussion.
We've talked with 2 separate attorneys that are local. Prices between $190 to $210 an hour. These 2 companies specifically, or not specifically, but work for a lot of condo associations in St. Augustine and the area.
All right, any other opposing views?
Mr. Connor has been our attorney for the last 25 more years. He was instrumental in helping us solve our developer lawsuit. He has been one of our best assets so far as the association is concerned, and I do not believe we need to change at all. He has been there with us every step of the way.
All right, somebody like to call the question?
Question.
Second?
Second.
Second. Vote to end discussion? Right?
It's the same if there's
Okay,
no.
all right. So we're taking a vote now to send out an RFP for the attorney services to the condo association. All in favor say aye.
Attorney services for the condo association.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, question clearly understood. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
I vote no. We're on to number 6, new business. Board discussion of submitted legal opinion regarding conflict of interest by board members.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the order of business usually is you conflict out yourself after the call of order. So if there's any question in the future as to a conflict, or just as a matter of course, you probably should ask if there's a conflict to anything on the agenda, and the board members should conflict themselves out at the top of the agenda from now on.
I agree.
So you're saying number 6, new business item number C should be addressed up front?
It should have been after call
At
to
the
order,
very front.
the establishment of a quorum,
Got it.
because you know your agenda and you should conflict yourself out
Which gets to
beforehand.
your point
To
about
the
the
point
order that's
about-
taken
yes,
over.
yes.
Understood.
Which-
Okay, duly noted. We'll have that discussion now because we're at this point in time. So this, who wants to explain what this conflict is?
I'll read the letter from the attorney. Attorney is for Rummel, Fate, McLeod, and Brock. It is addressed to Mr. Kurt Musser. You have asked for our legal opinion regarding possible conflict of interest and breach of fiduciary duty committed by the members of the Board of Directors of Ocean Villa. The contention is that certain board members, including the board's president, have voted to enter into no-bid contracts with Resort Rentals of St. Augustine, therefore Resort Rentals, while at the same time having property listed for with vacation rentals. The implication is that the improper self-dealing with Resort Rentals on a personal level creates an incentive to act favorably toward Resort Rentals at the expense of the board's duty to members of Ocean Villa Condo Association, thus demonstrating a conflict. This issue has been made worse by the board members' refusal to investigate and consider alternative vendors or alternative tenants for the condo property. Ocean Villa has for many years allowed Resort Rentals to operate vacation rental operations out of the condo common property, enter into a lease agreement with Resort Rentals that called for Ocean Villa to receive $636 a month in rent, who would in turn use the office to rent properties. Since that time, the lease has been modified, although no written record was provided to establish this. Currently, Ocean Villa pays to Resort Rentals. He has $1,400 per month. This is apparently being done to compensate Resort Rentals for staffing an on-site office. This agreement is in addition to the association retention of a CAM who is charged with managing the operation of the condominium and its common property. The combination of these factors would appear to be commercially unreasonable to the association. This, coupled with the board members' refusal to investigate alternative arrangements that would be more advantageous to the association, would lead one to believe that there are ulterior motives attributable to those board members that refuse to even investigate the possibility of saving the association money. It would seem that the ulterior motive lies in the fact that the board members utilize the services of a Resort Rentals to rent their condo units at vacation rentals. The choice of using Resort Rentals is in itself not something that would preclude a member from serving the association. However, it is our opinion that each member of the board may have collectively have breached their fiduciary duty owed to the members of Ocean Villa under the bylaws and Chapter 617 Florida statutes when they took action or failed to act and derived a financial benefit therefore. It's further evident the breach of fiduciary duty to its members. The board has also acted improperly by not performing the due diligence by its refusal to solicit proposals from other management companies. The board's refusal to perform even a search for other proposals removes the liability limitations from Florida law and exposes each board member to personal liability pursuant to Florida Statute 617.0830 and Article 3 of the bylaws, which are recorded. In defense of this personal liability, the board will likely raise the business judgment rule, which has been established to protect board members from the unfortunate consequences of business decisions which were arrived by legitimate means. Under the business judgment rule, a court must defer to the business judgment of the board of directors. It cannot second guess the business judgment of the board of directors of the association unless the opposing party proves by evidence that the decision of the board sought to be enforced was procured by fraud, self-dealing, dishonesty, or incompetency relating to the maintenance. And then they have a court cases here. Based on the foregoing, it is our opinion that the members of the board of Ocean Villa should abstain from voting on contracts with resort rentals or other contractors without first conducting the appropriate due diligence necessary to protect the interest of the members of the association. We remain available to discuss any other questions or comments you may have. Jeremiah Mulligan.
All right, opposing points of view? You got a letter there from 1995? Ken?
Our attorney has sent us a letter back in 1995, and if I can read it, it's a little bit light because of the age. Or maybe you would like to speak to this. Would you like for me to read your letter?
I can speak to it if you want me to.
Okay, I mean, I'm sure.
I reviewed this back in 1995. I most recently was requested to review it again recently. Notwithstanding some of the salacious accusations in that letter that was just read, my opinion is different from the one that Mr. Jeremiah Mulligan has rendered. There's an old saying, if you get two lawyers in a room, you get three opinions on anything. And lawyers usually are paid to come up with letters like that, and they do, and because they can. The reality is that there's nothing in the Condominium Act that tells you what a conflict of interest is. You have to look at Chapter 617. Chapter 617 is the non-for-profit corporation statute, and that has all the detail in it that defines things. One of the provisions in 617, and I could be off on the number, but I think it's 617-8080 or 0808, is a conflict of interest statute section. It specifically addresses what is and what isn't a conflict of interest on a board. And what 617 says in that provision is that it is not a conflict of, this is Florida law, it is not a conflict of interest for a member of a board of a nonprofit corporation to vote on an item that they have a personal interest in if disclosure is made prior to the vote. And that disclosure would be made to the board and in this instance to your members. As long as the contract that is being discussed or decided upon is commercially reasonable. Now, if you find that the contract being discussed with resort rentals is unreasonable commercially, then the conflict of interest statute would say perhaps that was inappropriate conduct. But if the underlying contract is commercially reasonable, permissible by Florida law, will the board members to vote on it, whether or not they have a personal interest in the contract or not. Now, separate from that, in this case, there is no personal interest in the contract. The personal interest in the contract is the same interest that's shared by anybody that participates in a resort rental program. And that is, anybody can participate in that. It's publicly available. It's not something unique to Julian Lewis or unique to John Taman. It just is an arrangement. Now, if Julian was a shareholder of resort rentals, and she was getting a share of the profits of resort rentals through dividend distribution, then that might indicate in normal circumstances a conflict of interest, but even under the provision in Chapter 617, it would be negated by the sub-provision on conflict of interest as long as the contract was commercially reasonable. In this case, Julian Lewis isn't a shareholder in resort rentals. She doesn't have any interest in the company. She's just having her unit listed for rent and utilizing those services along with everybody else that utilizes those services. So in this case, we're even far removed from the specific provisions that 617 allows a conflict of interest if it were otherwise considered to be exempt from the provisions of the statute. As is, if you carry the logic of this situation being a conflict of interest for the board members, then when they let contracts for Comcast that they have a personal benefit from, then when they let contracts for FPL that provides electricity that they have a personal benefit from, when they buy insurance for the association that protects them along with everybody else, then every single matter that comes before the board becomes a conflict of interest, because what they're doing up here, what y'all are doing up here, is handling the business of the association for the benefit of everybody, including yourselves. So I disagree. I don't think there's a conflict of interest. It's my legal opinion stated twice and now a third time that it isn't a conflict of interest. I'd be happy to defend the association in court if Mr. Mulligan wants to file a lawsuit. Hopefully it won't go that far. And again, the salacious comments of accusations of fraud and underhanded motivation and the innuendo that somehow there is a ulterior motive being propagated by this board is not anything that I've seen in my experience, and I've been watching this board act for a number of years.
Well, it'll be determined by DBPRs, because there was a complaint filed.
Wait a minute, we responded to the chairperson. Mr. Chairman, based on what we just heard, a couple of clarifications. What I read and what was distributed at the last meeting or the October meeting, because that information from our attorney was distributed, and it was from a 1990s letter, 95, whatever, was that the conflict arose as to whether there was a conflict with the resort rentals being here and assisting the board or whatever. Maybe I read more into it, but that there was nothing there. The conflict that I hear here and which arose in those prior meetings was the conflict that to suppress an RFP, that's the conflict, because then the fiduciary responsibility issue was coming in. To suppress an RFP would give an appearance of, why are you suppressing? What is it you don't want to do? When in fact, our fiduciary responsibility says we should check this out. So Mr. Chairman, where I understood and where I was speaking at the October meeting was we send out RFPs to be sure we are protected on those particular issues. And by doing so, it doesn't mean we make one change. I mean, the difference between $10 and $30 is not my issue. The issue is, have we done the right thing to say we've checked it and we've gone, and right. Therein is the issue.
I would disagree that we're not sending out RFPs to cover ourselves legally. We're elected to use our experience and our business acumen to operate this association, not to send out RFPs just to make sure that we cover ourselves legally. We have a legal opinion.
And we have an opposing.
We have market information that suggests that our expenses are below the marketplace, which is at the heart of all this. We've got our legal opinion. There is no conflict from this board's legal opinion point of view. And all other remedies in equity and all law are available to you.
Just so we're also to that, since you went back to what we're trying to do, when in the meeting, someone says, we don't have money for that, we don't have money for this, and people are coming up with ways to maybe find that money or to save money that might allow us to do some things without having to put the fear of a special assessment. Billy Ray stood up and said he does not like special assessments. He would do it. That is where we're coming from. We're trying to find new and innovative ways to do things and still get the same thing that we all want without devaluing our property. That's where it's from. And to vote to not send out an RFP where maybe as the attorney has said something, that's where it is.
So we have a legal opinion. I did not believe there's a vote required on this.
If
Yes,
there's
from a parliamentary point of
Yes.
view, this gentleman is your attorney, and he just gave you,
Right.
but you have that one there. They could easily ask that that be accepted as a motion, or you could easily ask that you accept your attorney's, if you want to clarify the issue. Otherwise, you can just move on.
then I'll amend the motion that's on the floor, which is to get an RFP. I propose an amendment that we accept the,
What
accept
what
the
motion
attorney.
was that?
The motion that we had, he made a motion that we send out an RFP for an attorney.
Wait.
Yeah, but we passed
We've
that.
already done that.
We already
We're down
passed
on
that.
the conflict of
We're on the
interest.
conflict now.
But and I'd have to make no motion. then.
Yeah, right.
That is
Yeah.
correct. I'll make a motion that we accept the findings of this attorney. I didn't get the name, but I'll ask for a copy of it.
Yep, you can have this copy.
Okay.
I mean,
That
she
we-
would like to
but-
get
but
that.
I'd like to have I'd like to make a motion that we accept the findings of this attorney, and I'll get the name of it down, Rumrell, Bate,
Mulligan.
McLeod, and Brock,
Right.
Mulligan.
as it is.
Okay.
Run
Is
roll.
it second?
Second.
Seconded, discussion? No discussion, call the question. All in favor of accepting the legal opinion of the law firm whose name I don't recall exactly, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
I vote no.
Now, there may be a
Okay.
second motion.
Okay,
Okay.
I make a motion that we accept the opinion of the association's attorney, Timothy J. Connor.
Is it seconded?
Second.
Second, discussion?
Discussion. I'd like to request that Timothy J. Connor update that, because that's a 1995 letter, to verify if it still applies. It's discussion. I believe we need to get an updated one, not one that is,
I think we just
We
heard it on January 11th, 2014.
but
In
we don't have
writing.
it in writing. I'm just saying, I would like to get something that is
I'm
updated.
sure
as
we
of
can have
now.
that memorialized.
There is a spoken part.
Well, don't get too far afield from the original motion.
Yeah.
The motion is to accept. And all I'm saying
this.
is,
All
I'm
right,
asking,
let's stick to the motion at hand.
but that's it. The
Well,
motion
well,
is-
No,
Mr. Davis is
accept this
is
opinion.
suggesting that the motion be
I
in
did not
writing.
modify the motion, I did not modify it, that is discussion.
Right,
I feel we should ask for it, but that's a discussion.
that's a discussion we'll
I
have
did not
after
amend.
we address this motion.
And
Okay,
I meant it's discussion.
all right, anybody call the question?
I call the question.
Second? Seconded, all in favor of any discussion, take a vote, say aye.
Further.
Okay. The vote on the question, or the vote before the board is to accept the legal opinion of,
No.
We did that.
Connor.
oh, I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, you are correct.
That's right.
To
I'll
accept,
reread it, it's to accept Timothy Connor's legal opinion, and it's
On
the
the
one that's
conflict of
stated
interest.
in the 90s or whatever.
Well, he's updated it, but nevertheless.
But, no, that was the motion, to accept the one that we had.
No, the motion was to accept his statement.
his statement today.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry,
That
I
was
wrote
the
it, the
motion.
motion by Jolene Lewis was to accept the
No.
opinion
It was
that
not-
we had.
it was not
Okay.
No, the chair invited him to give a verbal oral statement, and he
So your
did.
motion was to accept his verbal statement.
Right, his
Right.
verbal opinion.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
I vote aye. Now, to your point.
Mr. Chair.
It needs to be memorialized and become an attachment to the minutes.
Is there a motion?
I move that it
There you go.
memorialized and up, as of today, or whenever you, memorialize
Memorialize
for
this.
an
And
attachment.
Would you just call it a written
Memorialized
opinion?
for today and to be attached to the minutes is my motion.
Is it seconded? Seconded. Discussion?
You're on a second.
You got no problem memorializing it, I assume?
Well, there's vagueness in that statement, memorialized by me writing verbatim what he said, or
No,
getting a written
Tim Connor.
opinion from
Tim
Mr. Connor.
Yes.
Okay. So the motion is to obtain for the record his verbal statement in writing,
Right,
okay, by Mr. Connor.
that is correct.
Okay.
That is the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
Did you say aye?
Aye. It passes.
That's 5-0?
5-0 pass.
Yes. We are under new business D, recall. Is there a motion?
make a second statement. Ask again.
Yeah, the issue is new business 6D recall. Who would like to lead this discussion?
There's no motion, it dies.
There is a motion.
A motion, please? What is the motion?
The motion is that we recall Scott Castle because of violations which disqualify him from serving on the board.
So is it a recall or is it a disqualification?
Disqualification.
So it's not a recall.
It's not a recall.
Scott Castle Construction Company.
Wait a minute, I want to get the motion first. What is the motion?
I don't know.
I have no idea what the motion is.
It's not on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, it's under recall, so I kind of doubt there's a disqualification here.
That's correct.
Thank you.
I don't know what we're doing anymore.
I don't either.
It's
So we
recall.
are, Tim, can you help?
There's a perfect good attorney sitting here. What is she doing?
But we're under recall. The item on
The
the
issue
agenda
is specifically that the agenda says recall, and what Julene has started to state there is that board members disqualified themselves.
Yeah,
That's not a recall.
I'll defer to the parliamentarian as to whether the heading controls the discussion on the item.
Well,
Recall.
a special called meeting is strict to the agenda.
It is.
Yeah, okay, well, if that's the case then, recall is a statutory procedure both in 617 and 718, and it doesn't lend itself to the disqualification process that I think Julian is referring to, which is a portion of your bylaws that disqualifies board members for certain things.